While on a hunting trip in Ghana, something terrifying crosses the boy's path. The Tsar lion, massive and sudden, materializes directly in front of him. He reacts instantly, stepping in front of his younger brother, shielding him. One look at the beast and he knows the truth. A single shot won't bring it down. Sergei makes a move no one expects. At the worst possible moment, he sets his weapon down, signaling to the lion that he carries no hostile intent. Remarkably, the ferocity in the animal's eyes begins to ease. Then a gunshot splits the air and destroys everything. The one pulling the trigger is Sergei's father, Nikolai. Nikolai's calculation is wrong. The lion roars and drives itself into Sergei, teeth tearing through his body. Nikolai fires again and again, desperate, but none of it matters. The lion takes Sergei and disappears, and Nikolai is certain his son is already gone. Fate, however, has other plans. Somewhere in northern Ghana, we find a young girl named Calypso, seated with her grandmother, fingers moving over a set of mysterious cards. Her grandmother stops her. These aren't just cards. They show the future. They guide us. She asks Calypso to choose 3. Calypso picks them. Her grandmother studies each one in silence. The first speaks of power running through the women in her bloodline. The second carries the weight of a coming tragedy. The third signals danger. Then her grandmother's voice drops lower. I was going to give you something when you grew older, but it seems you'll need it sooner. She places a small vial in Calypso's hand. A magical potion. This has been passed down through generations, she says. Anyone who drinks this, their wounds will heal incredibly fast. You'll need it soon, but remember, you must never tell your parents about this. Sometime later, Calypso joins her parents on a safari, but the animals hold no interest for her. Her mind keeps circling back to those cards. Without a word to anyone, she slips out of the vehicle and moves into the jungle alone. The deeper she walks, the more the wild closes around her. And then she sees it, the Tsar lion, and locked in its jaws is Sergei. Yet the lion isn't killing him. In the struggle, the animal's blood seeps into Sergei's open wound, and something shifts at the cellular level. A strange reaction passes between them, as if their biology recognizes something the other carries. The lion pauses, seems to sense it too, sets the boy down, and walks away. Miraculously, Sergei is still alive, and Calypso moves fast, pressing the magical potion to his lips. The moment it takes hold, Sergei's body stirs with strange visions, but his eyes stay closed. Calypso sprints back to her parents. They call for the forest guards immediately. A rescue team lands within minutes, lifts Sergei into a helicopter, and carries him toward the hospital. Before they take him, Calypso slips one of her grandmother's cards quietly into his hand. At the hospital, the doctors work with everything they have. It isn't enough. His heart stops. They call the time of death. Then, 3 minutes later, Sergei comes back. The lion's blood has fused with his own, rewriting him at a genetic level, threading the lion's power into his body. The doctors have no frame of reference for what they're witnessing. Sergei wakes disoriented, asking about the card, but no one around him knows anything about it. Nikolai and Dmitri arrive not long after and bring him home. Later, Sergei finds a letter from his mother. Her words are simple and heavy. Forgive me, I couldn't stay. Your father left me no choice, but promise me one thing, never become like him. Nikolai calls Sergei in, and the anger in the room is immediate. You put your life and your brother's life in danger by not shooting that lion. You're weak, just like your mother. If you stay weak, your enemies will use it against you. One day, you'll take over my business, and Dmitri will go back to New York to finish his studies. What he shows Sergei next turns the air cold. The severed head of the Tsar lion. Something inside Sergei cracks open at the sight of it. The rage that rises in him is clean and total. You killed it, but honestly, it should have killed you. He walks out, pulls the door shut hard, and makes a private vow. He will never hollow himself out the way his father has. People who grow up in environments shaped by cruelty often don't reject that cruelty. They quietly absorb it, which is exactly what makes Sergei's choice to resist it so deliberate. Not long before this moment, his mother had ended her own life after years of abuse at Nikolai's hands. That same night, Sergei moves quietly, packing money, pulling out the mysterious card that carries something he can't yet name, and grabbing his passport. He's ready to disappear. But Dmitri finds him. You can't leave me alone with him. Sergei holds his ground. Something is happening to me. Something I don't understand. I need to go to that place where we used to picnic with Mom. And then he's gone, leaving Dmitri standing there, stung and alone. But as he makes his way across the rooftop, the tiles give way beneath him without warning. The fall should leave him broken on the ground below. Instead, he lands soft, barely a sound. Sergei stares at the ground beneath his feet, stunned. There's no time to sit with it. He turns and begins the long journey to his mother's hometown, a wide stretch of grassland deep in the Russian Far East. Sergei takes a ship to Russia and moves toward that old picnic spot, the place that still holds something of her. He's standing in the open, taking in the sweep of the landscape when the sound hits him, a violent thunder rising from the distance. He turns. A massive herd of wild buffalo is bearing down on him, a wall of muscle and momentum stretching across the horizon. Even a lion reads that kind of charge as a reason to move. Sergei locks up, fear roots him to the ground and his eyes close. Then one of the buffaloes stops, right in front of him, and the rest of the herd pours around him, a river splitting at a stone, not one of them touching him. He stands there, still untouched. The Buffalo King holds for a moment, then turns and walks away. That's when Sergei understands it. He doesn't just survive, he connects. Animals read something in him now, and his body is operating well beyond the limits of anything human. Sergei finally reaches the place, the exact stretch of open land where he and his mother used to sit together on those picnic days. He decides, quietly and without ceremony, to stay. The wild becomes his home. Day after day, he pushes into what he's becoming, senses cutting sharper, strength climbing past anything measurable. He is no longer the boy who stood in front of that lion. A spear leaves his hand with minimal effort and covers over 100 meters. His speed matches a cheetah. A running deer doesn't get far. The power in his legs is extraordinary. A slight push off his toes and he's airborne. Even his hearing has been rebuilt. He can isolate the individual drips of water moving through a canyon stream. Then a gunshot reaches him. He scales a tall tree in seconds and locks onto two poachers nearly a kilometer out. He moves to intercept, but the distance costs him. He arrives to find dozens of buffalo dead across the ground. The rage that rises in him is immediate and physical. Before he can move on it, the poachers close in and tell him to walk away. That order reaches something deep, and what surfaces isn't the man. It's the animal. He lifts a knife from the ground and launches himself at them, relentless, precise, and brutal under his fists. The two of them have no answer. He stands over the scene, eyes moving to another group of poachers working in the distance, then back down to the fallen buffalo. The decision forms in silence. These animals deserve better. He's going to make sure they get it. 16 years pass, and Sergei is no longer a name. He's a reputation. The underworld knows him as an elite predator, a legendary assassin whose list carries a grim guarantee. Once a name lands on Kraven's list, the hunt has already begun. Sergei steps off a plane and makes his way to his mother's old property. A voice message arrives from Dmitri. His brother carries a rare gift. He can replicate anyone's voice with flawless accuracy. This time, he runs the impression of their father, Nikolai, clearly aiming to unsettle Sergei. Sergei sees through it immediately. It doesn't land. His next target requires a specific approach. He disguises himself as a prisoner and walks into the facility. The moment he reaches his cell, he stops. One look at his cellmate and the read is instant. This man is dangerous. Rather than escalate, Kraven puts a wager on the table. He'll be out in 3 days. And if that doesn't happen, his cellmate can do whatever he likes with him. The cellmate doesn't fully follow the logic, but something in the confidence earns a slow smile. The following day, yard time brings company. Two thugs who don't know any better, declaring that everything in this place runs through their boss, Semyon, and that the new arrival is about to learn that the hard way. What follows is brief and one-sided. Kraven lifts both of them off the ground with minimal effort. The guards arrive in time to prevent anything worse. He's escorted to the Kingpin's room. Kraven carries no concern walking in. He knows exactly who this man is, because this meeting is the entire reason he's here. The moment the room's guard drops, he moves. Both bodyguards hit the floor before either of them processes what's happening. Semyon reads the shift too late. The noise pulls the prison guards in, but Kraven already has him, hurling him off the upper level. He scales the wall without hesitation, tears an opening with raw force, and the prison alarm tears through everything. The guards can't match him. Every weapon they raise is already irrelevant, and within a single minute he's outside the walls. But what meets him out there is something else entirely. A massive storm swallows the landscape, and inside the wideout, Kraven's sense of direction dissolves. Then a presence registers, sharp and predatory. A tundra wolf steps out of the blizzard. Kraven reaches toward it with his telepathy, and the aggression drains out of the animal instantly. The wolf leads him back to his extraction team. He strips the prison tattoos from his skin. By the time military units sweep the area, all they find is a body, mauled past any recognition. Mission done. Kraven returns to the grasslands, and finds poachers moving through on a convoy, working through the buffalo herd. He positions himself along their route and waits. They move in thinking this is manageable. It isn't. Kraven tears through a full truckload of them in seconds, a force with no ceiling. The leader on the pickup reads the situation fast enough to run. Kraven doesn't need to chase. He clocks the license plate and files it away. The leader makes it back to report to his boss. Then a crossbow bolt arrives at head level. Kraven crosses the name off. He closes the door on his way out. Calypso reappears, and the years have shaped her into a prominent lawyer working out of London. She's at the funeral of her mentor, Samantha, killed while working a case. Then Sergei steps into the frame. He walks toward her and holds out a card, the same one she pressed into his hand all those years ago in the jungle. Calypso stares at it. Sergei speaks. "If you hadn't helped me that day, I wouldn't be alive. I know about your mentor, Samantha, And I also know the police weren't doing anything about Semyon Corny. So, I took care of it myself. She can barely process it. She goes home, pulls up the news, and there it is. Corny, dead inside the prison. The next day she finds him. I never asked you to kill anyone. I'm a lawyer, but what you did wasn't wrong. She studies him for a moment. I know your father. Are you like him, a gangster? Sergei answers without flinching. I grew up watching my father do terrible things. He thought I'd become just like him. But after I met you, everything changed. I left him and chose a different path. Now, I hunt people like him, bad people. The news calls me the hunter. But I prefer Sergei. Then he leans into the reason he came. I know your law firm deals with dangerous clients, and I have a list of people who deserve to be stopped. If you give me information, I can take them down. People who witness violence early don't always repeat it. Sometimes the witness becomes the correction. Calypso doesn't dismiss it, but she doesn't step in either. If you keep making enemies like this, your loved ones will be in danger, and one day you'll regret it. She walks away. Neither of them carries any awareness of what's already moving. News of Semyon's death has reached Rhino. A man who once ran small errands under Kraven's father, Rhino is now reaching for something far larger. He calls a meeting with Semyon's former right-hand man, an offer to bring him into the fold. Work with me, Rhino says. One of the men laughs. I've heard people call you Rhino, but honestly, you don't look like one. Rhino, Alexei by birth, doesn't argue. He reaches for the tube fitted to his body and opens it. His skin begins to harden and rise. His frame warps and expands into something monstrous, something that belongs alongside a rhino in the wild. One of Corny's men breaks and opens fire. The bullets accomplish nothing. Rhino pulls them from his own body with quiet calm, then steps back into his human shape. Another man raises his weapon. A sniper from Rhino's team drops him before the shot fires, along with the rest of his guards. 2 men remain. Rhino repeats the offer. One of the 2 shoots the other without hesitation and steps forward. Acting on Rhino's orders, the new recruit moves to eliminate Nikolai at his hotel. The grudge runs years deep. Rhino had once offered Nikolai a partnership, and Nikolai had turned it down and left him humiliated. But Nikolai is not a man who gets caught off guard easily. He reads the threat early, works his guards, and puts down both the attacker and Rhino's men. Dmitri is also in the hotel that night, but the moment the shooting starts, he folds, crawling under a piano and staying there. Nikolai sees it. The anger that follows is cold and cutting. In my own club, I was attacked, he says, and you didn't even come to protect me. You are my biggest mistake. He shoves Dmitri aside and walks away. Word of the failed hit reaches Rhino fast. He's furious, but not shocked. Nikolai has always been a different kind of target. Then his men drop a USB drive on the table. The footage on it shows Kraven's prison break in full. The revelation stops Rhino cold. The legendary hunter is Nikolai's son. If the 2 ever reconcile, the fallout would be catastrophic. Rhino moves quickly, deploying a strange and specific weapon, a man known as the Foreigner, whose ability is as simple as it is total. Anyone who meets his eyes drops immediately into a hypnotic state, without exception. Kraven has no awareness of what's coming. He wants to surprise his brother on his birthday, until he's standing in front of Dmitri again. Over the years, Nikolai has worn Dmitri down steadily. The constant criticism, the dismissal, the slow erosion of his confidence. Kraven carries guilt over that. He sees clearly what his father has done to his brother, and he also sees the part that makes it worse, that despite everything, Dmitri still reaches for Nikolai's approval. People often hold tightest to the validation of the very person who withholds it most. It's one of the quieter cruelties of that kind of relationship. Kraven knows what Nikolai is, and he presses Dmitri to keep his distance from a man with no real capacity for warmth. He's mid-sentence when Nikolai appears. Kraven swallows what he was about to say and finds a smile. He won't let his father poison his brother's birthday. After the night winds down, he sleeps alone in a park. Come morning, he goes back to say goodbye, and steps into a room that's been torn apart. Dmitri is gone. A bloodstain sits on the bedsheet. Kraven hits the balcony and catches it, his brother being forced into a car below. He doesn't calculate the drop, he just goes. The height means nothing to him, but the distance does. By the time he lands, the car is already gone. He doesn't stop. He opens up into full speed, raw, animal-level velocity, and begins closing the gap. When he's close enough, the power in him surges, and he hits the car like a bull at full charge, then vaults onto it in one clean motion. He drives toward the window, working to get inside, but the speed works against him. He gets thrown off while twisting away from the vehicle. The kidnappers push through to a remote dock. Kraven isn't far behind, but far enough. The helicopter is already spinning up. Kraven gets a net rope around the frame just before liftoff, plants his feet, and holds it down through sheer strength. When the assassin draws a weapon, he ties off the rope, moves through the gunfire, pulls a steel pipe from the structure, and launches himself up. The gunner doesn't get a reaction off before he's down. The helicopter finally tears free, and Kraven grabs on, dragged across hundreds of meters of open sea before a buoy rips him loose. He watches the aircraft carry his brother away. Sergei goes straight to Calypso. He lays out everything and asks for whatever she can find, any resource, any contact that might point to where they're holding Dmitri. She agrees, but it will take time. He also goes to Nikolai. Nikolai doesn't flinch. They're asking for $20 million. I don't have a problem with the money, but if I pay, I'll look weak and everything I've built will fall apart. Sergei doesn't try to reason with him. You've never done a single good thing in your life. No one respects you, and if anything happens to Dmitri, it will be your fault. Nikolai comes back hard. You left him alone, not me. I protected him. The moment he was kidnapped, he was already dead. Paying money won't change anything. Sergei looks at him for a long moment. I always wondered what a truly great man looks like. Now I know. He walks out. Calypso works a lead through one of her clients and finds the thread, but it comes with a problem. The contact has already switched sides. What he doesn't account for is how little tolerance the other side has for that move. Calypso gets Sergei on the line. The kidnappers are in Turkey. Sergei is on a plane before anything else needs to be said. He arrives at an isolated monastery built into a sheer cliff face. That's where they're holding Dmitri. The height and the rock offer no obstacle. Kraven moves up the face like a lizard and slips inside. A guard steps into frame. A blade reaches him before he clears the corner. Kraven moves through the compound like something that doesn't disturb air. His footsteps produce nothing. The sharpest sentries on duty have no idea he's already past them. Even the best hunter reads a moment wrong sometimes. An alarm trips, but the enemies have badly overread their own position. The gunfire lasts seconds before it stops. Omer, running the crew, tries to mount a response and gets launched by Kraven's charge for the effort. Kraven moves to interrogate him, and then something registers. A rocket is already in the air. There's no window to move. Kraven and Omer get blasted off the cliff together, and the explosion kicks off a landslide. Kraven puts himself between Omer and the falling debris, keeping the lead alive. Then the city wall detonates again, and this time, Kraven doesn't clear it. The rubble comes down and buries him. One of the assassins picks through the wreckage, photographing the body to send confirmation back to base. He never hears Kraven step up behind him. Both killers are down before either processes the contact. Elsewhere, Dmitri is brought before Rhino, and Rhino doesn't raise a hand against him. Something unexpected surfaces in the man. He looks at Dmitri and sees a version of his own past, a son overlooked and pushed aside by a father who saw weakness everywhere. He decides to use that. He tells Dmitri what he is. Biological experiments. Extreme ones. They built him into what he stands in front of Dmitri as now. Immense strength, and pain that never fully stops. He carries contempt for what he's become, but he also holds one truth that keeps him moving. Strength is the only currency that earns respect. He wants Dmitri to take the same path, undergo the transformation, then use that power to dismantle Nikolai's empire from within. Then his men report an intruder. Every weapon in the room comes up. Rhino wasn't expecting Kraven this fast. The elevator opens, and it isn't Kraven, it's the foreigner. The glasses come off, and the entire room folds into hallucination. He moves down the corridor without a sound and arrives directly in front of Dmitri. The foreigner lays it out for Rhino. Don't move on Dmitri yet. Not before Kraven is in hand. He's studied Kraven's profile thoroughly, and the finding is this: no exploitable weakness exists except one. His brother. The mind naturally protects what it most values, and in doing so, it also hands that thing over as a lever to anyone watching closely enough. The foreigner then produces something from his pocket, a rare plant from Siberia, the same species Kraven uses to tip his arrows with poison. Find the source, find Kraven. Meanwhile, Kraven moves Calypso. Concern for her safety pushes him to bring her to his base in Siberia. The space is built around research, lined with rare herbs and equipment. Kraven has spent years trying to reverse engineer the remedy that pulled him back from death in that jungle. But the formula isn't here. It left the world with Calypso's grandmother. And while they work through what they have, the foreigner and Rhino arrive carrying something new. A poison unlike anything used before. A single injection pulls a person's deepest fear to the surface, then drives the body toward organ failure, death arriving inside a nightmare the victim can't wake from. But before they can move on their target, the forest pushes back. Something is already out there. A cheetah tears out from the tree line, then vanishes just as fast. The disruption gives Dmitri a window, and he takes it, gone into the trees. Rhino sends men after him, not realizing they're walking the path Kraven has already laid out. In the jungle, Kraven is already moving. By the time the assassins reach for their weapons, they're on the ground. The survivors break, but there's nowhere to go. Rhino reads the situation and calls in a helicopter to level the area. The explosives don't touch Kraven. He moves through them and turns back toward the base, and then a poisoned arrow finds him. His vision collapses. The ground beneath him shifts. Spiders close in from every direction. Kraven is inside the nightmare now. The foreigner's voice works through the hallucination, pressing against his will, looking for the crack. Kraven swings at shapes that won't stay fixed. His fist connects with a wooden post. His body is lagging, his defenses open, and the foreigner moves in to finish it. Then an arrow punches through his forehead. Calypso steps into the frame. She reaches for the elixir and gives it to Kraven, pulling him back up through the dark. Rhino gets his update and concludes Kraven is finished. He pulls Dimitri and begins moving back to base. Then something stops him. A sound, then a shape, then an entire wall of buffalo thundering toward them. Rhino understands immediately what this means for anyone standing in the open. He reaches for the hose on his back and opens it. His skin hardens in seconds, his body locking into something the buffalo can't destroy. The cars around him crumple like paper under the herd. Kraven arrives and closes in fast. Rhino gets up onto a vehicle, and Kraven comes in first. A flying kick that sends him several meters through the air. The car spins out. Rhino doesn't bother moving, letting the impact launch Kraven across the ground. Then Rhino hoists the wreckage again. Kraven comes back in, working his agility against the size advantage, threading through each swing until he's face to face with him. Every hit he lands changes nothing. Rhino doesn't feel it. Kraven is the one who goes flying, dozens of meters, the blow rattling through him. He's still finding his footing when Rhino is already back on him, relentless and without ceiling. The charge that follows sends both Kraven and a truck through the air together. The truck comes down on top of him. Rhino stands over it, reading it as finished. Kraven pulls himself back up and gets taken again. The strength gap is too wide. As the darkness begins closing in at the edges, something shifts in his focus. He finds it, a weakness, buried in Rhino's armor. He pulls together everything left in him and drives a metal rod into the spot. Rhino's roar tears through the open air and his grip releases. The pain doesn't slow him for long. The rage that follows is worse. Kraven moves fast, pulling a steel cable and working it around Rhino's body with the kind of precision that only speed can buy. He gets the other end airborne and ties it to a buffalo mid-charge. The herd does the rest. By the time it's over, Rhino is broken open on the ground, the arrogance gone, survival the only thing left. But the ground beneath Kraven doesn't settle. He tracks down his father, and what he finds is the piece he hadn't accounted for. Nikolai is the one who handed that prison break footage to Rhino. Pressed on it, he doesn't reach for a denial. He's known for a long time that the hunter making waves through the underworld is his own son, so he fed the information to Rhino deliberately, using Kraven's bond with Dimitri as the mechanism, letting someone else carry out what he wanted done. The betrayal lands hard, but when the moment arrives, Kraven finds he can't cross that line. He walks away. Then, from the jungle behind them, a roar. A bear breaks through the trees and drives straight at Nikolai. He reaches for his weapon. The chamber is empty. Sergei has already been there. With nothing left to defend himself with, Nikolai meets what comes for him. A year moves through. Sergei finds Dimitri on his birthday. Dimitri speaks first. I met a doctor in New York. He helped me, changed me. Then a cluster of mafia men closes in around Dimitri, and Sergei reads it immediately. I thought you were done with all this. You said you'd sell everything and walk away. I don't want you going back into that hell. Dimitri's expression doesn't shift. You're the one who pushed me into that hell. You think you're better than Dad? You're worse. I know what you did. You had a role in his death. You think you're a savior, but you're just a man. He turns his back and walks. Sergei moves after him, and then Dimitri stops. His face changes. His entire form changes. He is now wearing Sergei's face, his exact body, a perfect copy. Sergei goes still. Dimitri's expression carries something that used to be a smile. You know, I've always been good at mimicking people, like a chameleon. Sergei pushes through it. Who is this doctor? What did he do to you? Dimitri doesn't soften. You always wanted me to stay weak, so you could look stronger, but not anymore. Rhino is dead. Dad is dead. Now, everything belongs to me. Before I could only copy voices, but now, I can become anyone. You can't stop me. People who spend years being diminished don't always break quietly. Sometimes they rebuild themselves into the very thing that was used against them. Before he goes, Dimitri turns back once more. Dad left something for you. Sergei goes back to Nikolai's house. A letter is waiting. The words inside are short and deliberate. We all have to choose a path, and now it's your turn. Follow mine, and it will make things easier for you. At the bottom of the box, beneath the letter, is a jacket, cut from the skin of the Tsar lion. Sergei lifts it and puts it on. He stands in front of the mirror and looks at what's looking back. He isn't just Sergei anymore. He is Kraven, not a man who fought monsters at a distance, but one who let the hunt change him from the inside out. The most dangerous thing a person can do is survive something that was supposed to destroy them, because survival without direction becomes its own kind of predator. Sergei's life is proof that the line you draw early is the only thing standing between you and becoming the very monster you escaped. Know what you stand for before the lion appears, because once it does, there's no time left to decide. The story doesn't end here. If you got this far, hit like, subscribe, and share, because the hunt is just getting started.